Okay, guys, we're back to our book reading, Gods of the Bible, and we are on chapter 10, Drug Addicted Gods, and we've covered sacred materialism, Holocaust, and what the meaning was, Noah, Moses, and now we're going to start with Cain and Abel. We're on page 187, and let's get started. Let us read a passage from the Old Testament that is as famous as it is controversial. The story of Cain and Abel, Genesis 4. Genesis says that Abel became a shepherd of flocks, while Cain tilled the soil. After some time, Cain offered the produce from his soil to Yahweh, and Abel offered the firstborn of his flock. This is Genesis 4, chapter 4, verses 4 and 5. Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. Yahweh looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Yahweh liked meat. Fruit, vegetables, or grain burned on the fire did not have the desired effect he was looking for. This obvious consideration leads to the following questions. If the heart's intention is the only thing that counts in a sacrificial offering, how could God not appreciate Cain's intentions? How could God not accept the offer of a farmer with no other option but to donate his produce? What was the difference that made one offering pleasing and the other undesirable? This difference is not in the provider's will and pious intentions, but in the actual effectiveness of the sacrifice. This was the only aspect that the Elohim was interested in. The smell of the burning flesh that guaranteed the relaxing, soothing, calming effect God was looking for and which pleased him greatly. Many translations report that Yahweh did not like Cain's offer, but the Bible is explicit here and uses to express Yahweh's reaction the verb shah, which means to consider with intent, to weigh. The meaning of the verse should therefore be rendered as follows. Yahweh looked at, considered the sacrifice of Abel, and did not look at, consider the sacrifice of Cain. Yahweh essentially turned to what gave him pleasure, or perhaps, as we shall see in a moment, satisfied a particular physical need. In doing so, he took no account of Cain's intentions. He rejected the offer that did not interest him. We shall now see why. The next subtopic is burnt scent. Leviticus 16:13 and Exodus 30:27 describes a fragrance different from the odor of burning flesh. Of this fragrance produced by burning scent or perfume, Yahweh is eager, and a strict procedure must be followed during the execution of the ritual for the exhalation and diffusion of this fragrance for the priests to remain alive. Leviticus 16:13. This is Hebrew to English translation. Will put the scent on the fire in the faces of Yahweh, and shall cover cloud of the scent, the seat mercy, that on the testimony and not will die. The term kotoret means burnt offering, burnt perfume. In Exodus 30:34, the Elohim provides the recipe for composing the mixture to be used during this ritual and capable of producing the desired smoke and fragrance. Take for you spices, storax. Again, this is Hebrew to English translation. Let me start again. Take for you spices, storax, and onyxa, and galbanum spices, and frankincense, pure part, which to part will be. A careful reading of the passages in which these rituals are transmitted also shows that the ingredients had to be adequately prepared and offered to obtain the right scent. Verse 36 also indicates exactly where and how to burn the mixture. Again, Hebrew to English translation. And you will crush from it to make powder, and you shall put from of it in faces of the testimony in the tent of meeting, that where I will meet with you there. This mixture of ingredients and spices in equal parts, part to part, was so important that the Elohim forbade its production and any use other than its intended use. No one could use it for himself. This prohibition was mandatory, for whoever violated it was punished by death. And this was no mere threat. Exodus, the 30th chapter, verses 37 and 38, and this is Hebrew to English translation again. And the scent that you will make, as according to proportion, measurement, its not shall make for you. Holy shall be for you, for Yahweh. The term Kodesh, generally translated as sacred in ancient Hebrew, has a meaning quite different from that ascribed to it in the general religious sense. As we said in the previous chapters, it means set apart, set aside, set apart for something. The etymological dictionary gives as the original meaning of the root the act of preparing for a task. That which was sacred was thus set apart from the rest to be destined for a specific purpose. This particular aroma was produced to perform a specific function and was reserved for the Elohim. No one else was to manufacture it for themselves, otherwise they risked death. Exodus 30, verse 38, is a preemptory as it gets. Hebrew to English translation again. Who he which will do like it, to smell odor of it, and then will be cut from his people. We cannot but take note of an apparent paradox here. If this smoke symbolizes the spirit of the offerer, why can't the offerer himself smell it? Why can only God smell it? Let us leave this question open for now. Everyone will be able to form his or her personal opinion. However, looking at the ingredients that make up this preparation, the mixture could put us on the right track. This practice is known today as phytotherapy. In this discipline, specific functions are attributed to the 4 ingredients mentioned by Yahweh. The mixture intended for the Holocaust had to consist of equal parts of 4 elements in particular. Storax, or Styrex officinalis, has antiseptic and healing properties. It was known in ancient times as a drug to treat respiratory diseases. Onyx, or Ungus odoratus, is a mollusk whose crushed and burnt shell produces a powerful and pungent odor. The Hebrew term onyx, scachulet, in Aramaic means to remedy, to restore, thus referring to a possible remedial function of some situation. Galbanum, Ferrugolo galbanifera, is a rubber resin with a reasonably unpleasant smell and a burning, bitter taste. In phytotherapy, it is still used today as an anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, relaxing, and aphrodisiac. Frankincense, Boswellia, Coteri, Serrata, Papyrifera, I'm slaughtering these words, is an oleoresin with tranquilizing, anoxylytic, and anti-inflammatory properties, also considered helpful in treating bronchial asthma. This final blend, made up of equal parts of the four substances mentioned, has unique properties. It has antiseptic, anti-anxiety, and sedative properties that can regulate breathing. The mixture described in the Bible gives off an odor that, due to the presence of galbanum and onyx, proves very intense, distinctly particular, not exactly pleasant, at least not in the ordinary sense of the word. Wow. Actually, I thought my personal side note, I thought they were going to use canna and frankincense and myrrh, that mixture, the anointing oil. So this is clearly not it. Let's continue reading. Okay, the next subtopic is consequences of preparing a wrong mixture. Leviticus 8 and 9 tell of a series of Holocaust sacrifices during 8 days, involving several animals, rams, calves, lambs, that produce an odor that is nichorish for the Elohim, 8:21 and 8:28. The purpose of this small hecatomb was to purify the tent of the meeting in the desert and to consecrate Aaron's family in order to prepare them to meet and serve Yahweh. The Hebrew verb that is usually translated as consecration is derived from the verb mala, meaning to be full or to fill. The specific expression to fill the land, Leviticus 8:33, indicates appointing someone to a position. Aaron and his sons were to be assigned precise positions as priests. On the 8th day, the formal act of consecration is to be performed, and an extraordinary and ominous event occurs. Leviticus 9:23 and 24. Yahweh appears with his kavod before all the people, and immediately after that, a fire came out of Yahweh's faces and burned the sacrifice. On seeing this, the people fall face first on the ground. On this occasion, the Elohim ignites what they have prepared on the altar, and hundreds of those present witness this event. In the following chapter, Leviticus 10, two of Aaron's sons take an initiative that proves disastrous. Leviticus 10, 1 through 3. Nadab and Abihu take 2 braziers, put fire in them, and present it to the Elohim. Leviticus 10:1. However, informs us that the fire was zara, strange. The term zara derives from the root word zer and indicates an element that is foreign, separate, different. It also means repugnant, disgusting. However, this gesture of respect by the two brothers, a sign of spontaneous homage to their God, far from being appreciated by the Elohim, proves reckless and has dramatic consequences. The Elohim reacts violently. A fire came out from Yahweh's face and consumed them, and they died before Yahweh. Leviticus 10:2. Nadab and Abihu incurred the same misunderstanding as Cain, believing that God could appreciate their good intentions and pure heart. But the Elohim did not care about the intentions of his faithful servants. He only cared about the results of the sacrificial practices. When mistakes occur in this regard, he is unforgiving. From this passage, we learn a lot about the personality of Yahweh and consideration he had for his creatures and representatives, and the goals and behaviors that determined their actions. One mistake in the performance of the prescribed ritual was enough to make the sacrifice unpleasant, i.e., not nehodish. One could be burned alive and die consumed by fire coming from the faces of Yahweh. From all these considerations, the following questions arise. Why kill animals to produce the smoke that symbolizes the ascent of the soul, if we know nothing about this soul, since God never speaks of it? Why slaughter poor animals by letting them bleed to death to atone for sins for which the animals are not responsible? Why did God take pleasure in smelling a particular odor as a sign of worship, supplication, or thanksgiving? Why was it necessary to carry out the Holocaust in the face, that is, in the physical presence of Yahweh, if the sacrifices only had a spiritual meaning? Why so much precision in the procedural instructions? Yahweh wanted the procedure to occur at the tent's entrance. Sometimes he wanted it to take place at the north side of the altar or in the tent of meetings where I meet you. Why so much precision in indicating the place where the rituals would take place? Would the sacrifice only work if offered in a designated places? Why was it so crucial to this God that everything happened in a certain way? Why was it necessary for the smell to be physically perceptible to him? Did God miss something if the substance to be burned, whether animal or vegetable aroma, was not adequately prepared or positioned? Was he unable to discern and appreciate the intentions of the sacrificer anyway? Why did he kill those who made mistakes in preparing the offerings? Was this ritual so important that it justified murder and bloodshed? Wow. Trying to see if I should stop here and go on to the next one. I think I will go ahead and stop here this time, guys. We're going to start again on page 193, and it's going to be Space Smells Like Fried Steak. See you guys next time.